They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
Oh, if Jeremy Hill can hold on to a fucking football.
That doesn't make sense.
You're listening to the P&E Bengals Fan Podcast.
3, 2, 1.
Just like music.
Basically, the Steelers are in more Super Bowl position ready than we are. And I'm just laughing at that. Are you kidding me about a team that is so desperate in their cornerback situation in a league that mostly passes, by the way, .com. They traded for a bust number 1 pick of the Browns here recently. And they're that scared of their secondary, but they're supposed to be in a better position because of their offense is so awesome.
Yeah, but you know what? They've been saying the same thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 3 years. Every year they're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to score 30 points every game. They've been saying that for 2 years now. And yeah, they have a high octane offense, but like you said, all three of the main people can't ever stay on the field at the same time. So,
well, number one, Martavius Bryant is gone for the year. That's number one. Le'Veon Bell's going to miss 3 games, and God only knows how that's going to affect him. So I don't know. I don't think Pittsburgh is as ready as everybody thinks, and people always forget about the fact that sometime during their season, Ben Roethlisberger is going to get hurt. That's just, it's like the setting sun now. You can put your clock to it. And how are they going to deal with that? And I don't know. I mean, he's getting to that age where injuries stop. You can't just toss him out in 1 or 2 weeks anymore.
Yeah, I'd be surprised to see him. I mean, when's the last time he actually went 16 games without getting injured?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he kind of gets dinged up all year. So
which we hope for, as a Bengal, as a rival.
There's part of me that wants to beat you while you're good. I don't want to hear Pittsburgh fans saying, "Oh, the only time you beat us is because Ben Roethlisberger was hurt," and they were already ready for that shit last year.
Hey, a win's a win.
When Le'Veon Bell got hurt, they were all Pittsburgh fans were already just lay that right there. Well, if you wouldn't have hurt Le'Veon Bell until they fluked out and won that game, and then, then it's just same old Bengals. And I'm going to go on record to say this right now. This may be Marvin Lewis's best team he's ever put out as a Cincinnati Bengals head coach. The team he has right now.
And is this a paper assumption?
Oh, okay. No, the reason why I say that is because usually in the preseason I'm very picky. Usually I'm looking for 2 things to start off with. Before I start looking at the rookies and, everybody battling for spots, there's 2 things I look for because honestly, preseason is nothing more than testing your depth because you play a lot of backups, and so, it kind of gives you a look at your roster, So with the first teams, when the first teams are in, what I'm looking for is 2 things. Number one, can we run the ball, and can we stop the run? If either one of those is a problem, you got a problem. And year in and year out, the defense is pretty stout with Marvin Lewis there, but I couldn't always say we could run the ball. I really have high hopes for Cedric Ogbowai, or what his name is, and what he might be able to do that Andre Smith couldn't. Andre Smith was a great, tackle, but pass protection-wise, yeah, but run game, he wasn't horrible, but, he was all right. But Cedric has a chance of really, being a really great one, and so that gets me excited because in preseason with the first team, it looked like they ran the ball a bit. And I was like, okay, that's good, and our defense looks as stout as ever, and not only that, but they look technically sound. It looks like everybody on the field knows exactly where everybody else should be, and it's and you don't really get to see defenses play that tight very often, so as long as the Bengals can keep up, without getting too many injuries, they have a defensive unit that could be really, maybe one of the best the Bengals have ever had. And they looked, the first team, the whole time they were in the preseason, looked very technically sound, very aggressive, very sound play. I mean, nobody ever really got open where, they were really wide open. It looks good, man. I ain't going to lie. That defense, I think, is going to be a revelation this year. And so the offense may struggle, you know, although I don't think Sanu and Marvin Jones, even though in their own right they're decent receivers, but I don't think they were like the death knell of our offense. I mean, there's very few games that Mohamed Sanu or Marvin Jones like straight up took over to where you're like, oh snap, without Marvin Jones we would have lost that game. Like you know, I mean, they're good players.
Right, it hurts to lose them both at the same time because they're going to get you some production, but at the same time, right, none of them were. Yeah. I mean, Marvin Jones, it'll be interesting to see him go to Detroit, and is he going to be the number one there? It'll be interesting to see how that works out for him. Obviously, Sanu is going to be more, I don't know if he's a 2 or a 3 in Atlanta, but...
Well, they're paying him to be a 2, but I've seen enough of him to know that he's not. I don't think he's any more than a slot receiver. And not exceptionally great one at that. I mean, the thing I like about Mohamed Sanu is he's very tricky. He can do a lot of things. He can run the ball. He can throw it. So it gives you some dimensions to your offense that maybe other teams don't have, and that's really nice. But like I said, neither one of them, were a break-the-game kind of guy. Like, I think Marvin Jones had one really great game against the Jets a couple of years back where he scored, 3 or 4 touchdowns or something like that. But outside of that game, nothing comes to mind where I'm like, oh, crap, Marvin Jones, if we didn't have him. And people forget that 2 years ago we didn't have him at all, basically. And we still popped out a good offense, So, as long as we got A.J. Green, Dalton, and it looks like Eifert's going to come back sooner than later because they didn't put him on the IR, which is great for us. If he would have been...
You can't see it right now, but I'm making my skeptical face.
And then usually I would say I don't blame you. But it's very telling that they didn't put him on the IR. They didn't put him on the PUP. They didn't put him on nothing, which means he's got a really good shot of getting there week 4. He's got a good shot. Because if he was going to be out, anywhere near 6 to 8 games, they would have pupped him or they would have IR'd him. And that, I mean, why waste a roster spot for a guy that isn't going to play half the season? That's stupid. You know what I mean? But you do save a roster spot for a guy who's only going to miss 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, let's hope you're right on that one.
I think I am. I just don't see Marvin Lewis wasting a spot like that. I just don't see it. So he's really.
Yeah, I like to believe you. I hope you're right. I
now,
want to
don't
see
get
him
me
on
wrong.
the field as soon as possible.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That's what it tells us. But yeah, there have been years where a nagging toenail injury all of a sudden became a broken femur or whatever in week 15. You just never know.
Yeah.
But I think all the signs point really good. I think the Bengals know that this might be their best chance. This might be, I thought last year was probably going to be their best chance at making a run. Of course, until Dalton gets injured. But looking at this team in the preseason, you don't see many holes, and that in the starters you don't. So...
yeah, like you said, they look pretty technically sound.
Boy.
Everything seems tight. Everybody seems like they're doing great with their assignments, with their jobs. It looks like it's a well-oiled machine. Again, it's the preseason and it's vanilla defenses, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they look like they're ready, man, and I'm excited. I can't wait.
They're supercharged.
And
supercharged.
It's so close.
Oh man.
Going with the same theme of being excited, I'll just go ahead and say we have to thank the football gods that the Bills picked up Brandon Tate.
Well, yeah, it's good to see the man get a job. I mean, I'll tell you this. He may not be a great returner, but the guy don't fumble.
I'm just excited. I'm excited for the rookie. There may be some growing pains. I'm sure there will be, but it's just nice to see that the Bengals finally realize that they can actually do more with their return game.
Well, I think it was about having the right guy on the roster, and I think Erickson just kind of recognized that and kind of figured out, if I'm going to make this team, that's where I'm going to make it at. I got to go for Brandon Tate's job. And he did, and he went and got it. And, all you can say to the kid is congratulations and, and hope that it translates well into the NFL season because you're right. That's one piece of our team that we really were missing unless Adam Jones was back there. So anytime there was a big punt return or something at the end of the important game, you knew you were going to see Adam Jones. And And if you're Brandon Tate, you know the writing's on the wall. And when
they put a better guy in when they need it.
Yeah, right. Like you are the kick returner. That's what you get paid to do. But when the big kicks are on the line, they throw somebody else out there, and you're like, damn, you got to be salty about that. But honestly, Brandon Tate should be happy. He just had a nice little career here. I mean, he made it about 5 years longer than I thought he'd make it, and so he made himself a little money, fed his family. Can't hate him for that. So good luck with the Bills, and I think the Bills are going to be a complete train wreck this year. I just don't believe in the Ryan brothers.
Yeah, I don't know. Have they ever worked both together on the same team before, or is this the shot?
Well, not in this capacity. Not like with one a head coach and one's a defensive coordinator. Yeah. So the answer to that would be no.
I'm sure it'll be fun for them, but we'll see. I mean, Rob Ryan, man, his defenses have just been like total crap the last couple of years. Wasn't he on the Saints last year? Yeah,
the last couple of years, and they were abysmal. But a lot of times,
it's just like.
But a lot of times, though, you're only as good as the players you got. And that's the reason why when you see a team win a Super Bowl, what's the first thing they say? Oh, it was a complete effort from the bottom to the top, from the top of the organization on down. Number one, the owner has to be committed. And until Marvin Lewis came along, the one thing you didn't see out of the Bengals was commitment from Mike Brown. You would see it in spurts when he had to, like when he ended up paying Carl Pickens the money he wanted, for his contract, years ago. And so he ponied up, but he was notoriously cheap. I mean, we had bad lineups, very, very marginal players, and you just didn't see that commitment from the ownership. But ever since Marvin's been here, it's been there. I mean, as much as people hate Mike Brown, and there was always, like get rid of Mike Brown, protests and things like that in the 90s and early 2000s. And to be honest with you, at the time, I didn't blame them. Those teams were just really hard to watch. Very painful.
Yeah, but you might be a little generous with the whole. Ever since Marvin Lewis has been there, given the whole situation with Carson Palmer, but more or less.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: all of a sudden, their front office, instead of making bonehead decision after bonehead decision, starts making decisions that make sense. I mean, we fleeced the Raiders for Carson Palmer. I mean, straight up, just smoked them for that, and. I think the two players we ended up getting back in that trade after all the drafts were said and done, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong on this, was Drake Kirkpatrick and Zeitler, the offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought Drake Kirkpatrick for sure.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that. So in either case, I mean, we just beat the Raiders for that one. And we've had good, solid drafts. I mean, all you have to do is look at our roster to see that. I mean, we've had just exceptional drafts, and that was one thing in the '90s. Again, that being a Bengals fan, all my life, that I always saw. I mean, we would draft guys that sounded okay on draft day, but just never amounted to anything. Kajana Carter, Dan Wilkerson, and Peter Warwick, especially because Peter Warwick in college. Man, that kid looked like the next coming to Gale Sayers. So when we picked him, I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, that's a surefire can't miss, type draft pick. And then he ended up being an average slot receiver. Now, I will say this. If Peter Warwick would have went to a team that was more well put together than the Bengals at the time, I think he might have done something. I still think he was a good ball player. But, I don't know. Just didn't make it. So in either case, the Bengals front office just doesn't make many bad moves now, which is freaking awesome. Our roster is deep, and Brandon Tate going to the Bills. That tells you something when you're dropping players that can't make your squad, and they're playing with other squads. Like, other people go pick them up because it's better than what they got. So that tells you a little bit about our roster, too. So at this point, I think, like I said, this may be the window of opportunity these next couple of years. Like, if they're ever going to make some noise and go after that Lombardi, this has got to be one of those years. I mean, it just has to be. Tony Romo is one of those players to me he's overrated, but he's underrated. He's a lot better than people that the haters give him, beat him down for. He's a lot better than that, but for the people who just, overrate him, he's not that great. And I don't think so. I think he's got crazy talent. Let me say this, like, in my opinion, Tony Romo has only formed that way in the last couple of years. Because in the last couple of years when he has played, you see that guy make throws that are like, those are throws. Those are pro throws in certain windows, certain patterns, and he throws them with ease, and you're like, wow. Like, and they're on the button. And his only crux, really, I mean, in the beginning of his career, he was just a choker. I mean, there's no other way you can really put that or say it. You put him in big moments, and he just kind of crumbled in the spotlight. But now that he's gotten older, he's really a great passer, and he's got good presence and, pocket presence, and, mechanics are all there. I mean, he's got what it takes, but it's almost like you waited to be 80 years old to figure out what life was about. And, you died at 81. Like, he's got all the talent, but by the time he figured it out, his body gave up on him. It's basically is what's going to come down to with Tony Romo. If I was him, I would just quit. I really would.
Yeah, I'd be surprised after this latest injury. Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to be the same.
Dude, he gets cracked in that back really good one more time, dude. He might be wheelchair styles. He better stop playing with that back like that.
Yep. I was just looking at the Bengals roster. Can you believe that Ray Malaluga has been on the Bengals for 8 years?
But you know what? Because obviously I own his jersey.
No,
I have a question.
I know we always gave him crap.
I remember calling you.
We always gave him crap, but the last couple of years he's actually held his own. But like
I was going to say the same thing.
Those first 4 or 5 years, though, man, it was just excruciating. Like pulling hair out of your head. Like, come on, Ray Malaluga.
I don't care how good he does. Like, he would have to, like, for me, to forget one certain play, he would have to get, like, the game-clinching interception in the Super Bowl. Or at least, at the very least, AFC Championship game. For me to forgive one play, and it was in our playoff game, one of our playoff games against Houston. I want to say it was our second one. And it's early. I mean, we're setting a good tone. We're playing good, strong D and things like that. We pin them back on, like, their, 4 or 5 yard line, something like that. And it's like either second or third and 19 or something like that. Like, it's dismal looking. And I'm not sure if it was a draw play or like a little flip to the halfback out of the backfield. But basically the hole opened wide open. Like the O-line for Houston opened the hole really nice. So here comes the running back. And if Malaluga makes the tackle, it's probably like 3rd or 4th and 15 from like the 6 yard line or something. Malaluga eyes him. No one touches him. He sees the guy coming through the hole, runs right up to him, and completely whiffs. And this guy runs for like 16, 18 yards and gets the first down. And from there, it just went downhill. Like, it was a game. It was a play where you got to set the tone if you're the defense. In a playoff game, like, you got to be the one to set the tone. And on that play was when you just saw, like, damn, like, how can you miss that opportunity? Like, it was one-on-one just right there in the open field, and he completely, it didn't even come close to, like, even slowing him down. Like, that's what killed me about it. I was like, damn, at least get in front of him and just wait for your cohorts to show up. But I don't know. But I do agree with you that the last couple of years, he's really, you can tell he's come on pretty strong. He's kind of starting to figure it out. just took a long time. A real long time. Like Egyptian dynasty times.
So we got this game on Thursday.
Oh, I know. And the good thing is, in fantasy, I had the Panthers defense, and they're going up against Denver with Trevor Seaman at quarterback. Dude, that's got to be at least worth 2 picks right there. You got to figure.
Yeah, it's I don't know if they make the playoffs this year, honestly.
Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Just because, number one, you're playing a world champion's schedule, number one. And number two, your offense is just really around a big quarterback. And unless John Elway knows something we all don't, oh man, that just does not look good.
Yeah, your defense can be as good as you want it to be, but you still got to score points.
Yeah, exactly. And no matter how good your defense is, a bad offense will put you in bad positions defensively, short fields and things like that. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for Denver because you got, Oakland, who's on the rise. They're looking to make noise. Kansas City's pretty solid, and the Chargers may not have everything, but they still got Phillip Rivers. So, that's going to be a tough division. That's going to be a slug-em-out division this year.